Thank you so much for making time and
Thank
coming
you
to
for
talk to
having
us
me.
about.
It's an honor to be having this conversation with you, my brother.
And of course, these are quite important conversations, and they on the ground. And what's disappointing is that only people are only having those very important conversations on their tiny corners on their streets,
Yes.
and not making a bold statement
Yeah.
to say this is what's happening
Yeah.
and this needs to be spoken about and this needs to be addressed.
Yeah. It's
And I'm glad you're one of those people that you're like, you know what, this is an issue. It's been an issue for quite a long time.
yeah.
Can we then say or do something about it?
Yeah. It's very true
Yeah.
because you know, everybody has a voice. So, like you're saying, we discuss it amongst each other, but we don't really make it known to the people who can effect the change. So,
Yeah.
I have a lot of conversations with people, and people share the same opinion. Others too don't really, maybe they haven't thought about it because as a people, we are used to doing things in a certain way and we don't want to change it. So once it's been like that, why you get used to change, don't you? You get used to
Yeah.
things being in a certain way, you get comfortable. But I feel like that's something that should be discussed, definitely.
Yeah. So this meeting, this conversation was sparked by your Facebook post. Then when I saw it's like, he's ready to talk. Can I hit him up just to check if he's ready? So I don't know if you remember. So I'm gonna read and we're gonna go down and we're gonna break it down in details, like sharing your experiences
Okay.
as you went through the Ghana education system. I'm gonna
Okay.
read so we have a context. Okay. I will use big English, man. In big English is so difficult. Okay. So you said the educational system in Ghana is flawed in so many ways. There are so many achiak. I don't know if I said it properly. Achiak
Yeah,
practices,
archaic practices. Yeah.
archaic practices that needs to be reformed, including how we maintain discipline.
Yeah.
They always speak about growing up in every school I attended. Any confident or outspoken student was tagged as a problem by teachers. As soon as you challenge anything, you don't respect, is what they say. It was a very common phrase we had. You can't know more than your teacher. You can't think different. You can't have a different opinion. You can't look different. It will be bitten out of you. And it's only later when you enter the real world that you see the damage the system has caused. This is big. This is heavy. This is massive. And the way you break it down, like it's you start from the beginning to the exit. When you go into the real world, you then say, you know
Yeah.
what. So I don't know where you want to start with that post because it's your post, you own it, and
Well, we can start from the top really because
yeah,
when I say the educational system is flawed,
yeah,
I believe that all my brothers, my Ghanaian brothers, who you know, who both my generation and the generation before, they all agree with what I say, that it's flawed because we are talking about discipline here. And we are talking about, first, before we go to discipline, we are even talking about the teacher-student interactions and how to maintain class control and all that. We are talking about building confidence in the students, which is, for me, a very important element of learning because it's curiosity and confidence. I feel like once you spark curiosity in a child, they are eager to know more. Once you put some confidence in them, they are bold enough to ask questions.
yeah,
And bold enough to question why some things are the way they are, and it helps them understand more things. But I feel like the the educational system has not been able to do that for us.
yeah,
Yeah, and it's not just in the educational system. I feel like it's generally a culture thing, but it's been in our schools for so long that you can't even be bold enough to ask a question in class because you fear what your teacher might do or say to you.
Wow.
You fear the fear of being embarrassed in class for asking a stupid question.
Yeah.
And that's what I mean by the outspoken students are always tagged as problems. You know, you ask too many questions and you don't respect the teacher because the teacher feels you're trying to make him look stupid by asking him these questions. Yeah.
So in essence, what you're saying is the system destroys children's creativity. They destroy children's curiosity. You cannot ask.
Yes.
You cannot be creative. You cannot have a conversation with the teacher and say, "How about why?" You cannot do that.
It goes all the way from the primary school level even to the university level, because
Even in the university level.
Even in the universities, if some people will be honest, my university experience with some lecturers were the same.
Yeah.
You ask a question and, rather than say, I don't know that, I'll get back to you on that. Or let's discuss this. What do you guys think? They'll rather say something like, what a stupid question. Like, why are you asking me this question? Just something to make you feel really bad about yourself.
Small, like very small and stupid. Yeah.
Exactly. So that alone has made me see so many times in class, from primary again all the way up to secondary. So many times in class, the teacher has asked questions like, do you understand, at the end of a lesson? And people are looking at each other like, I don't understand, but are you going to ask him? Because I'm not ready to face the shame and say, I don't understand, for them to say I'm stupid. So, because your friends won't even get you, it's the teacher who will get you.
Yeah.
You say, he's a stupid boy, isn't he? And, everybody will say, yeah. And so with that, it hinders the learning process of students. And I feel like in the end of the post, I say the damage that's been caused in the real world, because at least about 60-70% of the work you do in the real world is based on your confidence.
Yeah, very true, 100% correct.
Because there are no rules to it. There are no figuring things out in the real world. Myself, I realized that in a lot of jobs that you get, especially in the Western world, regardless of your background, you are trained on the job. So you don't have to have all the knowledge to start a certain job.
Yeah.
You are employed somewhere, and your passion for the work, your confidence in approaching your work is what you look at. But if you know everything in this world and you are very timid, then you're not going to be able to integrate into any place that you are put into. That's how I see it.
Wow, that's quite interesting. That's quite interesting, and I'm wondering why is that the case. And you've mentioned it's a culture. Can you expand on culture and discipline and school? How those three come together?
I say it's a culture thing because maybe the discipline in schools, let's start from there. There's only one way that a lot of teachers growing up I knew how to discipline kids, and that's by using the cane.
That's the only best discipline.
That's the only discipline. The child has done this, you cane him. They vary the punishments. The degree of the punishment is determined by how many lashes you get. So there's no alternative to what sort of punishment you are going to get. It's always the cane. But if it's a small punishment, maybe two strokes, 2 lashes. If it's a great offense, 6. if it's horrible, then maybe 12 in front of the whole school or something. But it's always the cane. So, you know, as human beings, when you do this for a long time, what's the alternative? Because people get used to it. And you realize that there's no one size fits all remedy to a particular problem. So when the cane doesn't work anymore, what do? You sack the person from the school. That's the end of it. But I believe that school is somewhere that you have to build people up.
Sure.
So we've done this for a while and we realize, okay, this doesn't work. Is it not time to sit down and have a conversation about it and say, well, in 1988, this was how things were done. But now looking at things, are there other ways we can choose to discipline our students, or can we do anything else? Because times have moved on.
True.
So that's what I mean by that.
So what do you think the problem is? Why can the system begin to have that kind of conversation to say, you know what, times are different. In 1988, we used to discipline, we used to teach, we used to do things this way. But things have changed. We're in 2021 now, and things have to be done differently. Why can't we start doing things differently as a country?
I feel like, first of all, a lot of people have this, I've been through it, so you have to go do it. That's what we all went. So you have to, like, it's not right, but it didn't kill me. So, I mean, why do you have to skip that? You need to suffer like I did, and you know what it's like. A lot of people have that mentality, like, oh, in my day, we did it like this. So we turned out all right. So we don't have to review it for what, you know. And it's not the right approach in my mind. I feel like the fact that you went through something that does not mean the next person has to go through it, because I'm not condemning the whole system. I'm just saying that it might have worked back then.
Sure.
But if you look at it holistically, which parts worked and which parts did not really work, because some things didn't really help us. And one of those things is the corporal punishments we're talking about, caning. Caning didn't help us as much as they thought it was helping us. So you spare the rod, you spoil the child. But what damage did it? Because they did do more harm than good. I think it did, because you find yourself more in a shell, like you can't come out and you can't express your opinion, even if you fear repercussions about like your own opinion, you see. So, and that thing follows you for life, really. It takes a long time for you to break out of your shell like that. So I feel like once we sit down and be true to ourselves and say that these are the things that didn't really help, we should be ready to change those things.
That's true. And now, as you've touched on the learning in the classroom, because now you're afraid to ask a question, you're afraid to speak, you're afraid to know, to say what you know. And then I'm just wondering, how's learning taking place? How was it for you when you had questions?
The learning that took place. The learning that took place. A lot of the learning that took place was what we call chew, pour, pass, and forget.
Wow.
It's textbook. You know, you read what is in the textbook. You don't really understand it. You don't really want to ask too many questions because of, like I said, the fear of, you know, what will be said to you, and, you know, the need or whatever. But you have to pass your exams, so you cram everything into your head. You see, you just process information without really understanding it. So there are so many people who have a lot of knowledge concerning things. They have facts in their head. They can give you facts in their head. They can't do anything with those facts. You know, To write an exam, they are going to give you 100% results. But ask them how they can apply those things in real life.
Real world,
they won't be able to tell you.
Wow.
You know, there are people who have the periodic table memorized. You know, they can spit that out
to top right.
From top, yes, they can give you everything. You say this guy is brilliant, but day-to-day life, common sense, like, you know, you can't really put those things together and then really deliver on a task you have to perform. And I feel like we are sort of just taught how to read and memorize stuff rather than actually understanding things. And that's the part of learning that I'm talking about, the curiosity and then the boldness to, you know, question certain things. That's when you really get to understand how you can apply so many things to daily life.
Wow. It's very intriguing what you're saying. Then I'm wondering, now you went through this system for almost 10, 12 years of school where you're just following and you're following and you're following and you've got a lot of fear and you don't want to be embarrassed. And you go to university, you do the same thing, 4 years, 3 years, 5 years, same thing. You just want to download information and then just write exams and get your distinction. Then you complete that system. Then now you get to the real world. How has the transition from school, university to the real world, how has it been?
It's been like
that's a big sign. Because now I'm thinking, how did you make it to the real world? Because the real world doesn't put you in that small tiny box to say, Joe, this is you. The real world saying this is.
The real world doesn't give you problems to solve one by one. Like what is the definition of this? What is the definition of that? And it's like nothing can prepare you for the real world because the educational system definitely doesn't. So for somebody like me and a lot of people I know, I'll say that certain things that made us realize these things were certain good teachers that we had that came along our way. And like you said, there are people having these conversations amongst themselves. They are all around, but the people at the top are not effecting this change. There are people around, but certain teachers that we were lucky to have were there by our sides to tell us, you know, you have to think for yourself. You have to, what do you think? And the first time a teacher asked me, what do you think? I was like, what do you mean, what do I think? Like, yeah, you know, you're going to shout at me if I tell you what I think because you think it's stupid. And that was in university.
You're like doubting yourself. What is this guy trying to achieve?
You're doubting yourself every single time. You're doubting yourself, you know. And even the first time I corrected a teacher, oh, sir, please, don't be angry.
You're scared.
You're scared. I think there should be a dot on the I. Oh, thank you very much. And you're surprised that he didn't shout at you because, you know, you thought he'd be angry. Yeah. So, like you said, the transition from university into the real world, it was quite interesting for me because I realized that nobody has all the answers. And, you know, in that work situation, like I said, you find good and encouraging people who make you feel like your opinion is valid and everything, and also do certain things you see around you. You build your own confidence. You have to figure a lot of it out on your own. If you have a supportive family, that helps a lot. And for me, I'll say that my family background was quite supportive. So, you know, the confidence was boosted from the foundation. And that made it better for me than for other people, I suppose. But if you want to depend entirely on the educational system to build confidence, I'll say that
It's not gonna work.
You'll be broken, because that's not where confidence is built. They rather knock people down for the way they look, for the way they speak or carry themselves, or whatever trivial thing it is,
Yeah.
So that's why I can say on the issue.
Yeah. I hear you, especially with confidence. I must say that, what you're doing now shows quite a massive, immense confidence. Your art, it's confidence.
Thank
we
you.
see the way you're doing it, that creativity. Your music, it's confidence. Stand in front of people and sing. It's another next level of confidence, and you're doing it regardless of what you went through the education system.
Yeah.
Now, my question to you is, how did you get to that? I know you just answered that. How did you get to that level of confidence, even though the system said we don't want you to have confidence? And maybe again, whilst you're answering that, can you then maybe advise the very same person that went to the same school system, where confidence was not encouraged? What steps can they take to start building on their confidence? Because as they say, confidence is everything.
Confidence is everything.
Yeah.
I'll say thank you for all the nice words about my art and everything. I appreciate it.
It's amazing. It's amazing.
Yeah, it's really true. For me, I'll say personally, once I started doing music, once I got into rap and I started rapping and everything.
And when did this start? Sorry to
This was in high school, actually.
Okay.
I was in my corner writing raps in my my little rhyme book and everything, and even at that time I was too shy to actually speak to people, or even not to say rap to anybody, because I thought it wasn't good enough. The turnaround happened when the book got missing, and some people read it, and they came back and told me, "Yo, this thing you wrote, are you the one who wrote that?" And that boosted my confidence. I felt like, oh, so you like it? And they were like, yeah. And that book kept being passed around from house to house. It just kept being passed around, and then like, oh, you're really good, you should do it and everything. So I think my confidence was built within my peer group. The boys I was in school with, that circle of friends and the wider school community. That's where my confidence was built, through the rap I was doing and through the arts as well. So then I dared to perform on stage the first time. Didn't go well because I was scared. I was, but I was like, no, I'm going to try again. And when it did go well, the response was amazing, and I was like, oh, okay.
And this is high school. This is still in secondary school.
Yeah, this is still in secondary school.
Yeah. Okay.
So I feel like, to me, I found my passion. I found what I love to do. And when I started doing it and getting encouraging feedback, my confidence lifted from there. I became a more confident person. And even when I made that post on Facebook that you were talking about, an artist friend of mine, like K, he's also a rapper. Shout out to like K. He's an amazing rapper.
He's in Ghana?
He's in Ghana, yes.
Awesome.
He commented under that post and said how he was really timid before, but when his old classmates see him now doing his rap and everything, they're blown away, because this isn't the guy they knew back in school. But through finding his passion and being good at it, like when he enters that zone, that's where he can express himself. He can say what he wants to say, and then you find your identity. You find like, oh, this is me. I don't have to compare myself to anybody. I do this and I do it well. Your confidence grows from there. And so that's something that we share. You are an amazing teacher. I see the passion that you used to teach, and I feel like I might be wrong, but that's where your confidence comes from.
Sure.
Knowing that you know your
Definitely.
stuff, knowing you are good at what you do.
Yeah.
And seeing the results of your work through the kids that you teach and seeing them excel and everything. That's where your confidence comes from. And that confidence spills over into other aspects of your life. In your daily life, you walk around knowing who you are because you know that nobody else can define you. You know who you are and you know what you want to achieve. And that's all that we really need from education. Apart from that, you can't take that element out and build around everything else and expect it to still take off. It's like an airplane with no engine. You see, when you have the body and the body is so nice, it has a wingspan of this and it has a tail like this and painted so nicely, but where's the engine? It can't take off.
It can't move.
That's how it is.
Yeah. Wow. This is eye-opening. This is quite massive learning that are taking place. And from this conversation, I'm being reminded I've been listening to a whole lot of Kanye West interviews, and he said one thing that's very profound. He said when he's working with his people in his farm, when he knows, he exercises confidence, and when he doesn't understand, then he exercises arrogance. So because I don't know, don't come and ask me. It's quite frustrating if I don't know something and I don't want to show you that I do not know.
Yeah.
And you come ask me, and I'm like ignoring you, and you come ask me, and I'm going to tell you that, John, step back, just keep quiet, shut up, leave me alone, so I can just cool you down, exercise that arrogance.
Exactly.
But if I know, as you mentioned, that as a passionate teacher, so understand your subject matters. And when someone comes and they ask me questions, then I'll be able to sit back and say, okay, let's have a conversation about this. With what you're saying, then we can then go back and say, the way some teachers responded to children, shutting them down, it has some part of it has something to do with subject knowledge, that they were not really sure what they were teaching. And if you ask them a question,
it's definitely true because it's definitely true because they've also been through the same system of schooling where it's textbook. They study what's in the textbook and they know everything that's in the textbook, right? Now, a curious child whose mind is always wondering will not ask you something that is in the textbook. Already their imagination has taken them somewhere far away. Like, let's say we're talking about pollination. The child sitting there in the class, maybe that topic is boring him, but he remembers something he watched last night on TV about plants, on National Geographic or something, or and he just asked the teacher a question like, in the Amazon forest, I saw there was this plant that is carnivorous. So is it true? The teacher has no idea what we are talking about. We're talking about pollination. Like, what does he's going to shut you down, not because he thinks it's a stupid question, but he doesn't know. He doesn't know. And for him to say, I don't know,
it's another thing.
It will bruise his ego. He'll feel like, like I can't lose respect in front of the kids by saying I don't know. So you punish that child. Like,
wow.
What are you talking about? It's a stupid question. The whole class will laugh at him. And it's only later that you find out that, it's true. There are some plants that are carnivorous and all, but once children start asking questions, and they are never going to ask you questions that you expect. It's always unexpected, but it all helps the learning process. And I did a bit of teaching myself during my national service. And, it was then that I realized teaching is not for me. But
what happened?
No, like it was great, but like you see, you can be good at something, but if you're not passionate about it, I'm sure for you there are so many jobs that you can do because you are educated. There are an unlimited amount of jobs that you can do, but it boils down to the one that you are passionate about, the one that you wake up in the morning you want to go to. That is teaching for you. For me, that wasn't teaching. So I was doing the job all right, but I knew that no, this is not something I want to do long term. But it just reminded me of a time in class when I was teaching visual arts because I was a visual arts.
Passion is,
that's what. But the school I was teaching visual arts in, they were doing leather work, and I never did leather work in school. So I was teaching under one woman who I was telling I didn't do leather work in school, so I don't think I can teach leather work. And she was like, well, you should take the syllabus home and you should take the notes home and read over every night you come in, and I'll tell you what we are teaching the next day, and then we'll go from there. And I said, okay, that sounds great. So it was a lot of stress on my part because every night when I go home, I have to study like I'm in school. I'm studying every night to come and teach the following morning. Studying every night to come and teach the following morning. And then, like I said, when you have confident students in your class and curious students, they will never ask you something in the textbook. So one student asked me, sir, what's the meaning of this? Or what's the definition of this thing? And it's not in the book. It's about 3 topics ahead. And I'm like, oh, okay. I'm not there yet in my mind, but if I study people, I don't know.
So you're just reading for this chapter, not just chapters ahead.
Yeah, I was catching up. So they've asked me something that is way ahead, and I was like, I don't know this, but I can't tell them I don't know. And I can't shut them down because, of course, that's what every other teacher does. So I was like, oh, this question, I think we've answered this question before, haven't we? And they were like, oh yeah, we've answered this question before. And I was like, does anybody have an idea? Can anybody help him out? And people put their hands up, and I looked for the person who has never spoken in the class, and I was like, oh, you want to speak today? She was like, yeah. I said, can you tell him what the definition of that is? She gets up, speaks, and I said, do you understand now? Okay. And then they have a short discussion about it. And the whole class moves on. Seamless transition. Nobody's embarrassed. Nobody feels like, oh, I've been shut down, or my opinion doesn't matter. So I was really happy with myself for the way I conducted myself in that particular moment, because I had already played back times when I've asked questions like that and I've been shut down by the teacher. So
Jo, thank you so much for painting your Ghana educational experience with us. Hoping that a whole lot of people take note of this, and something will be done by people in power to make sure that, we transition to the 21st century. And if we say we transition to the 21st century, then it's another thing, because already we're moving to the 22nd century. So it means we're always going to play catch up. But it's been an amazing conversation. Learned a lot from your experience, and
so much. And I'm also happy about the work that you are doing as well. It's because of teachers like you that a lot of kids are breaking out of their shells and really being the people that they are supposed to be. And I know your ambitions are not just limited to teaching, but in the business world as well. A lot of great things coming, and I'm so excited to see all those things happen.